But the numbers are down. The support is weaker. There was a poll in the Washington Post not too long ago where how have the Biden-Harris policies affected your life? 49% of Black Americans said they've made no difference at all. Are you worried about that? I mean, where's the disconnect?
Well, that tells me that we have more work to do, which we are doing, which is to inform people about what we have achieved and to also thank them by reminding them that it was because they voted in historic numbers. Black Americans voted in historic numbers. Young voters, off the chart, historic numbers in the height of a pandemic in 2020. And here's what happened. When they voted, they changed.
How do you respond to the charge you want to replace history with lies?
Well, let me first make an observation that helps us think through this. We know the vice president well, and we know that when she speaks spontaneously, she has an unavoidable cackle. But when she's speaking from a script, she's very grave and very serious. So we know she's following a script here. And the script is that she has to reject what is common sense in the name of an ideological agenda.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about cackling Kamala Harris, who is the most unpopular vice president in the history of this country, and that's not an exaggeration. She's more unpopular than, vice presidents like Dick Cheney, who shot his friend in the face during a hunting accident and is probably the biggest neocon in history, okay? I mean, she's more unpopular than that guy, which tells you everything you need to know about how the American public feels about her. And she was confronted on her historically low poll numbers during this interview with ABC, in which they asked her about her historically low poll numbers and whether or not her race or sex, aka whether or not she has a vagina and her skin color, she's allegedly black, whether that has anything to do with her poll numbers being so low. Take a look.
There are reports that say that you have the lowest approval rating of any vice president. I'm curious how much of a role, if any, that you feel race and gender play in that.
Well, there are polls that also say I have great approval ratings. I think the point that has to be made is that there are attempts to create distractions away from the accomplishments of our administration. We've created over 13 million jobs since we've been in office. Joe Biden and I have been responsible for 800,000 new manufacturing jobs in the United States, not to mention what we have done to restore America's integrity on the international stage.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Kamala Harris just flat out lied when confronted on her low poll numbers by saying that there are plenty of polls that showed I have great poll numbers. I'm like, there's literally not one poll that shows that she has great approval ratings. There's not one. She was not liked in the Democrat Party. She's not liked as VP. She is the most unpopular vice president in history. And for her to just flat out lie like that with no pushback whatsoever from the ABC News host tells you everything you need to know about the mainstream liberal media. It's already bad enough that they framed the question as, well, maybe you have low poll numbers because of your sex, because you have a vagina, allegedly. I mean, I don't really know, but, that and your skin color, right? You're black, allegedly, okay, and Indian. Maybe that's why you have low poll numbers, right? Even though her approval rate among black folks isn't necessarily that great either. Just the framing here from the mainstream liberal media, again, tells you everything you need to know about how these people are just straight up Democrat Party propagandists. She can't even ask a question, like a critical question of Kamala Harris in the Biden administration without framing it as if, well, there's some form of hate and bigotry going on here because people don't like you, right? No. It can't be the fact that Kamala Harris is the border czar and the border is a disaster. It can't be the fact that we've been dealing with historical inflation. It can't be the fact that she's just awkward and weird and she doesn't make any sense when she's giving speeches. It can't be the fact that she's had no real solid policy wins as VP. It can't be any of that, no, right? It has to be hate and bigotry. But I will say, this is why it is a damn shame that Kamala Harris recently did get her first W as vice president, thanks to black conservatives who decided to basically adopt Kamala Harris' talking points to attack Ron DeSantis by spreading this lie that Florida is teaching kids that slavery was a net benefit for black people, in which Ron DeSantis has recently come out and actually challenged Kamala Harris to a debate for spreading this lie, and he has gone on the attack against Kamala Harris, and unlike the black conservatives, he is refusing to bend the knee to the mainstream liberal media and the woke mob on this issue. Take a look.
Yesterday, we, on my office, we sent a letter to Vice President Kamala Harris inviting her to come to Florida to debate Florida's education standards. She seemed to have a lot to say about it, none of it which has been true. And so we are ready to have that debate. I also have Dr. Allen, who's an African-American history scholar, ready to educate the Vice President on the great work that they did. And so, you know, let's have the debate. Let's dispense with the narratives. We're ready to roll.
She's down there today. I'm wondering, has she responded to your letter yet? And why perpetuate this?
She has not. Well, first of all, she came to Florida to attack us, and she's trying to attack me, but she's really attacking the people that worked hard on this and have done a lot of yeoman's work. And so that's just wrong. I think it's wrong to let lies be perpetuated. It's wrong to let false narratives stand. And they've been doing this to us for years from the White House, and we fought back every time. But now let's put the money where the mouth is. What she criticized our working group having done, she supported a similar in the AP African American history course that she endorsed earlier this year. How do you square that circle? It's all just politics and trying to pursue an agenda.
Yeah, you seen that, you heard that. And what was Kamala Harris's response to Ron DeSantis and his invitation to debate, or at the very least sit down and discuss the agenda that she claims she had such a problem with? Well, of course, she ran away from it because she really doesn't want that type of conversation, because this is just all politics and nonsense. Take a look.
In this moment, we even see extremists ban books and attempt to erase and even rewrite the ugly parts of our history. Right here in Florida. Right here in Florida, they plan to teach students that enslaved people benefited from slavery. They insult us in an attempt to gaslight us, in an attempt to divide and distract our nation with unnecessary debates. And now they attempt to legitimize these unnecessary debates with a proposal that most recently came in of a politically motivated roundtable. Well, I'm here in Florida, and I will tell you, there is no round table, no lecture, no invitation we will accept to debate an undeniable fact. There were no redeeming qualities of slavery.
Yeah, so the gaslighting here is just absolutely unreal. I want you guys to understand what she's saying. She's saying that Republicans are putting out distractions to avoid having debates or talking about, I guess, real issues, when that's exactly what Kamala Harris is doing. Again, Kamala Harris quite literally claiming that Florida is not trying to teach about slavery, while at the same time, claiming that Florida is teaching that slavery was a net benefit to black people. That is the distraction, because the same curriculum that she's complaining about in Florida is the exact same curriculum that she endorsed from the College Board when it comes to the AP African American Histories course. Okay, but of course, when asked to actually sit down and have this discussion, she doesn't want to do it, which in my opinion is funny, because if you care so much about history being erased and students not learning about real history, why would you not want to sit down and have a discussion and confront Ron DeSantis to his face about what you claim is happening in Florida? Right? It's amazing how that works. These people claim they care so much. We care so much. They're banning books, which is not true, by the way. I mean, they're banning explicit adult content in school, right? They're banning books. They're erasing history. They're teaching people that slavery was a net benefit to black folks, right? This is what they're saying. But when asked to sit down and have a discussion about something that she claimed is so horrible, no, we're not going to discuss it. We don't want to talk about it, right? We don't want to talk about it. Well, if you care so much, why would you not want to have the discussion or a public debate on it so that, I don't know, maybe you can change things if you actually care so much about what these kids are learning? See, again, it tells you everything you need to know. That she doesn't really give a damn, that is all about politics, and that she's a liar. Because at the end of the day, what Democrats want is to push adult content, explicit adult content, nudity down the throats of children, right? And they actually want to keep kids as dumb as possible. And that's why I'm so frustrated with this subject and with this issue, because it really does show you guys how weak the Republican Party is. I want you guys to understand, Ron DeSantis is the governor of Florida. Florida is the #1 state in the country for education, right? Florida is also the #2 state in the country for black-owned businesses, okay? It is the second best state in the country to start a black-owned business. Florida requires their students to learn financial literacy before graduating, which is damn near the closest thing black people will ever get to reparations, right? But yet, we have the governor of this state, probably the best state in the country for black people, okay, when it comes to education, when it comes to starting a business, et cetera, et cetera. He's being put on the tight ropes by the liberal media and the Democrats, which shows you how weak the Republican Party is, right? You might as well just throw the whole damn party away. Because when it comes to the actual data, okay, and the facts about the state of Florida, how in the world can the governor be put on the tight ropes when it comes to having a debate about what they're teaching down in Florida when it is the best state in the country for education? It doesn't make any sense. But it only can happen when we have a Republican Party that is worthless. I'm so serious. And this is why it's so frustrating that you see these black conservatives out here folding to Kamala Harris and Democrats on this issue, because Republicans are right? Republicans have everything to stand on when it comes to this issue, and they should be the ones pushing back and saying, we don't have anything to answer for. We don't have anything to defend when it comes to the state of Florida, because we're #1 in education. We're a great state for black entrepreneurship. We're teaching our black kids financial literacy. What is happening in these inner liberal cities, these schools that were shut down by Democrats? These students can't even read. They can't read, they can't write, they can't do math. And they're also, by the way, pushing explicit adult content in kids' faces, right? Why in the world are Democrats never answering questions about what's going on in these failing liberal schools across the country? But Ron DeSantis has to answer questions about the Florida curriculum when his state is the best state in the country when it comes to education? It makes no sense. It makes zero sense whatsoever. And it is one of the saddest things I've ever seen in politics. It really is. It's so frustrating to watch a Republican governor play defense for what is a great state when it comes to the issue he's defending. He shouldn't have to play defense. Kamala should be playing defense. Democrats should be playing defense. Democrats should be answering questions about what's going on in these liberal cities. The fact that their schools are failing. The fact that, again, kids are being exposed to adult content. They should be answering questions about that. If the Republican Party stood firm together instead of playing politics, instead of trying to score cheap political points for, I don't know why. I really don't understand what is it that these guys are getting out of it, because it's not even just black Republicans doing it. I saw Matt Gaetz come out and attack DeSantis for challenging Kamala Harris to a discussion. I don't know why, okay? But again, it doesn't make sense. They should all be standing with Ron DeSantis on this issue, lockstep, saying Republicans shouldn't have to defend anything when it comes to this state, right? This state is a model for what we want for the rest of this country, right? Look at all the people moving to Florida. Look how Florida has grown. Florida has led this country in regards to what this country should be like versus states like California, like New York, that have a mass exodus. The fact that Republicans have allowed the public conversation to be on Florida and criticizing Florida when it is probably the best state in the union right now, it blows my mind. It really does show you how weak the Republican Party is. And again, when you have the mainstream liberal media establishment, all of these people, right, in lockstep with the Democrats, that's all the more reason why Republicans have to hold strong, because you can win on the facts. You can win on the results. Look at the results. There's no way Republicans should have to answer any questions about education in Florida. Florida's the best state in the country for that. Why are they answering questions? Why are they playing defense? They don't have to. They don't need to. But the fortunate reality of the Republican Party, guys, I'm going to be real about this. We have a lot of people that are not in it for the people. They're in it for themselves. They're in it to score cheap political points, and they'll bring down the governor of the best state in the union in order to do it. That's what this is, because that's the only reason I can think of for somebody to come out and attack Ron DeSantis instead of holding firm Ron DeSantis on this issue. Because even if you have a problem with it, you address it privately. You don't address it publicly, especially considering how the AP African-American history course is teaching the same damn thing. So Kamala doesn't have anything to stand on. Clearly a political hit job. But again, the difference between Republicans, the difference between Democrats, they don't care how controversial the issue is. They're going to stand on it firm, and they're going to stand on it in lockstep. The fact that no Democrat comes out against so-called gender-affirming care, aka sex change operations for kids, that tells you how Democrats understand the game. If we all stand together on this issue, it's just better for the party as a whole. Okay? It makes it so it's much harder to criticize us when we're all standing firm. Republicans, on the other hand, when you're divided and you got black Republicans coming out here attacking Ron DeSantis, all they're doing is just basically proving the liberal media right, proving Democrats like Kamala Harris right. Kamala Harris is the most unpopular politician in the history of this country, and you're giving her a W. It's embarrassing. When if black Republicans stood with Ron DeSantis on this, and if they really had a problem with it, address it with them privately and come out here and say, look, Florida's one of the best states in the union for black people. What are you talking about? Look at the numbers. Look at how we're doing in entrepreneurship. Look at how we're doing in education. What's going on with these interliberal cities? Black students are failing left and right. These Democrats, people like Kamala Harris, they advocated to shut down the school during the pandemic. Who suffered the most? Black students. Black students suffer the most. So again, black kids, shoot, I mean, they ain't got to worry about what skills slaves may or may not have learned from slavery, because they don't even know anything about it at all, right? A lot of these black kids probably don't even know slavery was a thing. They don't know anything about history. So the last thing that Kamala should be talking about is what we're teaching down here in Florida. Our kids are educated, right? What about these kids in these liberal cities? They can't read, they can't write. Why is Kamala not complaining about that? If they came out here and they play offense, because in this subject right here, black conservatives are Republicans' strongest ally, they're their strongest weapon, Ron DeSantis is not on the ropes. And the Republican Party as a whole is going to look better on this issue, because ultimately, at the end of the day, these guys may win individually. They may score some cheap points, which I'm not even sure if they're winning, because ain't no black folks going to respect these guys for coming out against DeSantis. They're still going to be called sellouts and Toms and whatever, and the liberal media is still going to attack them. Democrats still going to attack them. But if they came out and they went on the attack against Kamala Harris instead of the attack against DeSantis, that makes the Republican Party stronger as a whole, right? They're standing together on this. They're making Democrats now answer questions. But they don't do that. Republicans don't do that. And that's the problem. We have too many people in the Republican Party that are about themselves and that are not about the party as a whole. Democrats, they put aside their personal beefs with each other, because they definitely got personal beefs with each other. They definitely don't agree with each other on everything. And they defend the party as a whole, even when it comes to the most controversial issues. Republicans, on the other hand, they fall apart when Democrats cry racism over something that is clearly a political hit job. An easy thing to turn back around on Democrats. This should have been an easy reversal by Republicans led by black conservatives, but instead we have the exact opposite. The worst politician in the history of this country getting her first W ever, because we have a party full of weaklings. It's embarrassing. It really is. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.